Under the criminal laws of virtually every state, to be convicted of sexual assault, a person must have used some form of forcible compulsion, such as a threat of physical harm, to coerce a victim into sexual acts. In State v. DiPetrillo, the court considered whether an employer's authority alone may constitute an implied threat of forcible compulsion toward an employee. Craig DiPetrillo owned an architecture design company in Providence, Rhode Island. DiPetrillo hired Jane, an architecture student. One day, DiPetrillo asked Jane to work late. At the end of the normal workday, DiPetrillo and Jane ate some food and drank a few beers. When they continued working, DiPetrillo called Jane to his desk, where he grabbed her waist, pulled her onto his lap, and started kissing her. Jane initially kissed him back, but she quickly changed her mind and stated that they shouldn't do that. DiPetrillo ignored Jane's objection and physically moved her into his chair. He then stood over her and continued to kiss her and put his hand up her shirt. Jane, who testified that she was afraid by that time, tried to avoid DiPetrillo's kisses and kept telling him to stop. When Jane finally pushed DiPetrillo's hands off of her, he pulled down her pants and proceeded to touch her privates. Jane again told DiPetrillo to stop and was finally able to stand up and walk away. DiPetrillo later told Jane that they shouldn't tell anybody about what happened, but Jane ultimately reported the incident to the police. The state of Rhode Island charged DiPetrillo with sexual assault, which required proof that DiPetrillo used or threatened to use force or coercion to procure the sexual activity. DiPetrillo asserted that the sexual contact was consensual. After a bench trial, a judge found DiPetrillo guilty, holding that the force requirement was satisfied because DiPetrillo overcame Jane by an implied threat of force based on his authority as Jane's employer and by a modicum of actual physical force. DiPetrillo appealed, arguing that an implied threat of force couldn't be based solely on the employment relationship.